When's the last time you went into a season having a legitimate thought that this Knicks team could make the finals?
I'm interested to see how they navigate that pressure. Everybody's under the gun here going into this season where the expectations are going to be through the roof.
That's where the bar is. And speaking of ownership too, I think that's where the expectation is. This is a championship team. I won't settle for anything less. And that's, part of why we saw the moves they made.
Who do you think is a non-Cavs team to keep an eye out on in the East this year?
It's
Ian Begley in the building. How you doing, man?
What's up, bro? How are you?
Listen, man, it's an honor to have you in the studio. We've been doing this for like more than 5 years now, mostly remote. Some at SNY down by World Trade.
That's right.
So I wanted to have a special kickoff to the season with you in studio. Man.
Nah, man, thank you for having me. Kids are in school, so I was able to get out of the house. Wife gave me the pass, and here we are.
How was the offseason, man? How'd it treat you?
Obviously, with the coaching stuff, it was busy, and then the free agency trade stuff. But the last couple of weeks, man, it's been nice. Good family time, spending time, the four of us, hanging out at the beach. So it was good.
Beautiful.
How about you?
That was good, man. Got some traveling in. Got engaged as well. Went all the way to Croatia. Got engaged.
Oh, getting engaged. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
That's big time.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to the Knicks chick, man. Die-hard Knicks fan. So I get the best of both worlds.
Wow.
And a Giants fan. So we get to go through the highs and lows together.
Big blue. It's looking like a low.
Yeah, very big low. Big low. What year is this for you on the beat again?
Sheesh. It's kind of weird because I started covering it with somebody, and then I think I went by myself 12, 13.
Yeah.
Maybe? Or 13, 14. So,
yeah.
Well above 10 years at this point.
What do you think about the shift from, because when you first started there, it was the Melo era, but there was some management turnover, coaching turnover, the carousels, and now in this Leon era, we're seeing more process, more building, more patience, and a sustainable team build here. What do you think about that from the time you started to now?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you win, right? Guys are not going to get fired. They're going to get extended. They're going to get second contracts when you talk about management and coaches. And they preach, everybody around the league preaches stability, preaches everybody kind of being tied in the same direction, rowing in the same direction. And I think by and large, you've seen that here in New York, professional relationships, organic relationships that go years back. I think the Knicks have really benefited from that, from Leon Rose and the group. So look, who knows what happens this season? Big year for them, obviously, but to date, they've done a good job.
With Leon being here, what do you think from your observation? What do you think has been his biggest strength in building this thing?
Yeah, I think he listens to the people around him, but ultimately it's his decision. And my understanding is that that's never changed. That's never wavered. And so I think when you have that kind of a process where you're open to hearing things out, but ultimately everybody knows that it's your call, I think it makes the work easier. And I guess what I would say is trades have been solid. I mean, you go back to the Derrick Rose deal. Go back to the Josh Hart deal when we were in Studio SNY. OG. We'll see about Bridges. That's where Leon really put his chips all in the middle of the table with the Bridges trade. And so I would expect Mikal to have a good year this year under Mike Brown. We'll see. I don't think you could judge that trade off one season, but I think the trades overall have been solid. And then, Brock Aller and those guys with the cap, just maneuvering around the cap and figuring out ways to build out the roster amid this second apron era has been impressive.
And that's what I like. I feel like it's well thought out. There's no panic. Yes, you have to take risks, but I think by and large in their tenure, 5-6 years in now, they've been more calculated than not. And I'm with you. I'm not ready to grade the Bridges trade just yet. I think it was a worthwhile move to make in terms of trying to up their ceiling a little bit, Towns as well. But overall, I like the process. And it seems to me, at least from the outside looking in, that Leon does, as you say, hire the competent people, but also the buck stops with him. He's going to make that final decision. I think Dolan's kind of giving him that leeway as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, from my understanding is, Dolan, ever since Phil, he's been hands off, you guys make the decisions. But I think that he's from what I've heard, just been excited about this team, this product, and has been a little bit more. I don't want to say involved because I know Knicks fans go crazy with that, but just I guess enthusiastic and in there
Yeah.
with this team and the way it's gone the past couple of years. So, but yeah, ultimately Leon's call, and you saw that with Tom Thibodeau. Yes,
Mhm.
Jim Dolan supported the decision. Yes, some players just supported the decision, but ultimately it was Leon Rose's decision to make.
What did you make of them landing Mike Brown after the entire process?
Yeah, it's not who they targeted, you know. They Jason Kidd, a couple other Chris Finch, all these guys under contract, even Ime Udoka. But I think that the process was messy. Asking teams for permission, that upsetting teams. Then some of these teams having to go in their pocket and extend the coach. I would be surprised if Jason Kidd doesn't get an extension at some point from all this. So the process was messy. But landing on Mike Brown, I remember talking to somebody who'd worked with Mike at a previous stop the day he got hired.
Mm.
And they said, look, of the coaches that these guys were talking to, coaches available, he's probably the best option. And so you could look at it that way. It wasn't their number one, number two, maybe not number three pick going into it. But of the pool available, I think they got a very quality head coach.
Yeah, and with him, I don't think you can judge this thing when people ask me, "What do you think about the move?" I'm like, man, I don't think I can have an opinion until after the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's all said and done.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
That's exactly what it is to me too. Because I mean, just look at where this team left off. Conference Finals, Tom Thibodeau, flaws and all, gets them there for the first time in 25 years.
Mhm.
So no matter who they hired, Mike Brown or somebody else, that coach was coming in with high expectations to meet. I mean, how do you justify the move if you don't make the conference finals, make the finals? How do you justify the firing? So that's maybe a little bit of a reductive way to look at Mike Brown. Maybe it's a little bit unfair to him, but that's the situation he stepped into here. Expectations are sky high. Finals would be a successful season if you're looking at it that way. And this year with the injuries in the East, it seems like there's a pathway there for the Knicks if they can stay healthy.
what did you make of? Some people applauded the move, but there are a lot who are out on it. They say, "Hey, Tibbs, two games away from the finals. I mean, what's going on here?" They had some other naysayers throwing mud in the process, the same old Knicks. But then I look at the goals that they had going into the search and looking for more collaboration, looking for someone who's going to get the coaching staff involved and the medical team and hiring player development. What did that say to you about Leon and their goals to want to improve, not just at the coaching level, but organizationally, that synergy overall?
Yeah, you know what? Tom Thibodeau had a big voice in personnel decisions. They didn't Knicks didn't end up doing everything he wanted to do, but he mattered in that process big time. And just go back to maybe year two where Leon Rose could have fired Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks were struggling. He chose not to. He
Right.
stuck with his guy.
Mm.
He put everything on the table for him. He could have done the same this time around. He didn't. I think there was some maybe minor fissures there
Mm.
in that connection. And so maybe that's some of the reasons why they went out and tried to do what they did in terms of collaboration, communication between the front office and the head coach. But look, the bottom line is the bottom line. Tom Thibodeau won. He got you to the conference finals, and that's where you're judged to me going into this season.
Yeah, and now it's as we move into another year where now they're a legitimate contender. And that aura of invincibility that everyone once had, you're losing a couple chinks in the armor.
Yep.
Leon with the Bridges trade,
Yep.
with the
Thibodeau.
move for Tibbs, even a Brunson with the questions. Hey, can they build around him? Is this a legitimate team with him at the helm? I'm interested to see how they navigate that pressure. Bridges' new contract. Like
Mhm.
everybody's under the gun here going into this season where the expectations are going to be through the roof.
Absolutely. And, they, in the statement I think they put out after the Thibodeau firing, they said singular goal is winning a championship. And obviously that's every team's goal, but that's where the bar is. And, just speaking of ownership too, I think that's where the expectation is. This is a championship team. and nothing won't settle for anything less, and that's part of why we saw the moves they made. But yeah, that's where it is, and it hasn't been there for a long time, right? When's the last time you went into a
Yeah.
season, having a legitimate thought
Yeah.
that this Knicks team could make the finals? We're
Yeah.
going back
Maybe
to the
95.
90s. Yeah,
Maybe 95.
yeah,
Especially the way 94 ended. You're like, oh, we got to get right back there.
yeah.
Jordan's still out. We got to get back to it.
Exactly. So it's been that long. So that to me speaks to the job that everybody's done so far under Leon Rose. But stakes are very, very high coming into this year.
Yeah, no question about it. What did you feel? How did you feel about the way the offseason shook out? Getting Yabusele, getting Clarkson in there, a couple more spots left to be filled. But what did you think about those acquisitions so far?
Yeah, look, when you can get Clarkson on a minimum, that's a great pickup. When you can get Yabusele where they got him, I thought a lot of teams thought he was going to get more than what he ended up getting in New York going into the offseason. So that to me seems like a win. Obviously, these guys have to perform to their previous performance, to their previous level that they've established. But if they do that, seems like some very good signings, some shrewd signings. They're up against it with the second apron. They got to get creative in terms of adding to this team in the future. But for where they are and for what it was, you needed depth. You went out and got two players who have shown, Yabusele particularly last season, that they can produce off the bench.
Yeah, Clarkson, much needed firepower. And they're very fortunate to get him because, if Utah doesn't waive him, he's not necessarily a vet min guy. He's probably more in that taxpayer level.
Yep.
So I think to be fortunate to get a guy like that when the pool was slim and other guys I liked guys like a Luke Kennard, he still went to the Hawks for $10 million. I mean, he got a major bag. So I thought they were fortunate to be able to upgrade the bench a bit and get a guy like a Clarkson and then like Yabusele as well.
It's funny. I don't know if I'm skipping ahead here, but my mind goes to Malik Beasley, who does he get a minimum? At least that. Maybe he gets more, but to have him on a minimum deal,
yeah,
I mean, that's crazy. To have the guy who shot the lights out of the ball last year on a minimum deal, whatever happens with him moving forward, if he doesn't get suspended, if he remains on the court, it's going to be the best contract in the NBA. So I'm curious to see where that goes. Obviously, ESPN reporting he's under NBA investigation still and part of that federal investigation. And I think because of that, I know the Knicks had been doing their homework on Beasley, but I think because of that uncertainty, I think it's cooled a bit there with the Knicks and Beasley. Maybe they learn something else in the next 2 days where they say, all right, he's probably not going to be suspended. Let's get it done. But my most recent read there was like that it had cooled a bit just because of the uncertainty. Some team's going to sign him. And it's going to be interesting to watch to see how it unfolds.
Is it safe to assume that's why they've kind of held out with this last vet spot? I mean, Shamet is out there. Doesn't seem like he has much of a market, so maybe they can wait it out a little bit, see what happens with Malik Beasley. Maybe Kawhi Leonard gets his contract voided out.
So I think just what they've been saying to people that I've been talking to recently is maybe we keep it open, or maybe we, instead of having a guaranteed vet minimum deal, maybe we keep it non-guaranteed, have guys compete in training camp for that spot. I know that there's a desire for a ball handler in that position. That's why part of why Ben Simmons there was interest in Ben Simmons. Somebody who can really have the ball in their hands, because, Miles McBride, fantastic player, but probably at his best off the ball, right? So who's that guy who's behind Jalen Brunson as a pure ball handler? I think that's part of what they're looking for. And so if I'm guessing that the deal that they signed this veteran to would not be guaranteed, because if it was going to be guaranteed, it would have been done already.
Yeah.
And so I think they will keep that spot open, and there's going to be competition in training camp, in the preseason, to see who ends up beating everybody else out and starting the regular season on the roster.
To me, that's their biggest vulnerability right now. It's that spot, because, knock on wood, cap goes down for any amount of time. And Jalen Brunson, I would have to assume they're going to have Clarkson run that backup unit. Maybe it's Hart if he comes off the bench, and I'll ask you about that in a bit. But behind that, there's no real solid backup point guard option established. Kolek came in, he got his minutes last year, bit struggled this year in the summer league. We'll see what Mike Brown thinks about him, but it'd be hard for me to think that they would trust him in that role just coming in at training camp.
So yeah, I think to your point, with if it is an open competition, Kolek, look, he can have a huge training camp. He could have a huge preseason and put himself in position for that role. But I think generally when you are trying to go where the Knicks are trying to go, it's harder to have an inexperienced player as who's going to get major rotation minutes. So that's probably one strike against Kolek, but he could certainly come in, light things on fire, and take that spot. I think Malcolm Brogdon is a guy who had been under some consideration too. I don't know where he's going to end up, but maybe he's a guy who comes into camp. But it's going to be interesting because you're asking a Malcolm Brogdon, you're asking a guy to come in on a non-guaranteed deal where this guy, established himself in the league is a very, very good player, and you're seeing it elsewhere too with Russell Westbrook probably having to accept less money, and it's a sign of where things are financially for these teams. Who can you convince to come in on a non-guaranteed deal and tell them, hey, you got a shot to earn the job that's been established? It's a tough dynamic.
Yeah. Is that what you think has been the holdup with Westbrook in a lot of teams? Is it maybe a money thing, or is it him?
I mean, I know Sacramento has interest in him. They have to figure stuff out with the roster first before they would be able to bring him on. Other teams, I'm not sure. I know he had interest in New York. Knicks had some interest in him, but I guess the way the roster shook out, it didn't end up making sense. So I don't know. Hey, he's in town, I think, for Fashion Week. Maybe he takes a trip up to Westchester and checks in.
He'll probably bump into Clarkson, and then Clarkson, might pitch him. He might pitch him. What do you think is the biggest question mark you have with this team going into this season of expectations?
Coming off last year, how quickly can everybody? How quickly do roles get defined? How quickly does everyone accept their role and play within that role that's been defined? I don't think last year there was enough of role definition, and I think that led to, sometimes players not getting the ball as much as they wanted and being upset about it. And so, if Mike Brown could come in and define roles for an OG Anunoby, a Mikal Bridges, Miles McBride, Jalen Brunson, everybody, and everybody can accept those roles and play within those roles, I think this team can be very, very good. The depth outside of what we're talking about, backup ball handler, is there. So the talent's there. So I think that's my biggest question coming into the year.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I would say mine is the system that Brown implements, is that enough to make this team more versatile, especially offensively? They were top 5 offense overall, but when it came up against the top 10 defenses, they dipped a little bit, and they had the second lowest differential, second highest differential in that regard. So I wonder, as you said, ball movement being an issue at times, does that scheme allow them to be a little less reliant on Jalen saving them, on Karl saving them? Do they move the ball more and then, as a result, get more out of Mikal, OG, Clarkson, Deuce McBride as well?
Yeah, man, I think that is definitely something to keep an eye on. But I think also, just in my opinion, with the role stuff, somebody has to be at the top, right? And and that's got to be accepted by everybody else. So that's with role definition. I think, the best thing they could do would be to state that, hey, you guys are here. This is Jalen Brunson's team. He's at the top. It doesn't mean he gets 30 shots a night and gets to, dominate the ball just because he has that position. But more from a buy-in standpoint, I think it makes sense to do that. I don't know if they will. I don't think it really happened last year. And I think that was part of why you saw things go sideways at different points in the season.
Yeah. And then also defense. Can he solve the defense in particular when you have Brunson and Towns out there? Because out of the more established contenders, or even if you look at the playoff teams last year, they were probably the one team that had 2 question marks defensively in that lineup. Like Pistons didn't, OKC certainly didn't have it. Everybody plays defense at OKC.
Mhm.
Pacers didn't have it. Celtics, Detroit, but the Knicks have that
Mhm.
question. Like, how do you get the most out of them defensively with the two guys in that lineup?
I mean, look, Tom Thibodeau, obviously very strong defensive coach.
Mm.
He got what he got out of them, which was not strong. So is there something there that changes? It can Coach O'Connor from the Clippers, who's going to be overseeing the defense, can he tweak something and get them to maybe just 2 degrees above where they were? They don't have to be, the teams, an all-time defensive team, just a little bit better, especially getting stops down the stretch would make a big difference. So it'll be interesting to see what changes are made. I could just see, there's going to be nights where they get outscored and it probably doesn't look good. And maybe Tom Thibodeau was watching on his couch, laughing a little bit in Connecticut. It's like, hey,
For sure.
I was trying to do this, and whatever. Anyhow, I'm just picturing Tibbs watching this, and it's fun.
Exactly. Got to shout out our sponsors of today's show at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours, man. Any touchdown, any rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. It's the first touchdown fireworks at DraftKings. Every play is your next shot to win. And for new customers, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, you can grab over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Remember to use our code KFTV for the $200 in bonus bets. Plus, $200 off an NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. The bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance, so you got to get on it fast. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer. O'Connor's coming in with a good reputation. I mean, he was with the Clippers. Van Gundy was also running their defense as well with the Clippers, right? So I wonder, how well they work together or what Brendan's strength is going to be when he comes here.
Right. So just the people that I've spoken with, spoke highly of him. A good person, good man. And in terms of the defensive assignments with the Clippers, it's kind of interesting because I think Van Gundy had it. I think other coaches had it ahead of O'Connor during his tenure at the Clippers, and then he had it. And so I don't know how much you can glean from that, but just in talking to people around the league about him, he's respected. He's seen as a guy who, can get along with players, can teach players, can hold people accountable. So we'll see how it goes. There's the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator here under Mike Brown. So it's a I don't want to say interesting because a lot of teams do it, but it's out there and it's known. And so, the defense struggles for 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about the defensive coordinator. The offense doesn't look good. We're going to be talking about the offensive coordinator. So it's a little bit of an NFL feel. Yeah,
and it was funny because we had fans asking us, like, we're the only team that's putting stock in the offensive and defensive coordinator. And my reply was that because of the expectations and where they finished, I think we are analyzing each move now on the margins to say how much better can they get with this improvement. From organization top to bottom down to the coach, how much better are these additions going to make this team in the grand scheme of winning the championship?
Yeah, without question. And I do think, most teams have somebody who it's his or her job to oversee the defense. His or her job to oversee the offense. So it exists. Yeah. Maybe it's not just pointed out as distinctly as it has been with the Knicks. But and just another thing with the coaching search, those assistant coaches, it was tough I think for them to get the guys that they really wanted, the guys that they really wanted stayed where they were.
Mhm.
And I have to think part of it is just the situation you're walking into as an assistant, as a top assistant, as a head coach. You're walking into a place where you got to be perfect, or you have to be close to perfect in order to meet everybody's expectations. And maybe that was something that a few of those assistants who turned the Knicks down, they didn't see it as a good situation. So it's just fascinating to me how that process played out too.
What did you think about with Mike Wienar from the
That
Pacers?
was strange, man.
He came to meet with the Knicks.
Yeah,
He got denied the permission, or he wanted to meet with the Knicks and got denied the permission.
they talked.
Okay, they did talk.
Yeah, they talked.
Right, but he ended up
He said
passing.
no. He said he was going to stay in Indiana.
And then he leaves. And then
Crazy,
he
man.
leaves
I didn't.
Indiana.
I was a head scratcher.
Yeah.
I know that going in when those reports were out, the thinking was that he was going to come,
Mhm.
and I think that was based on the conversations between him and the Knicks. And I think the Pacers were prepared to, rejigger their coaching staff and promote from within based on Mike leaving. And so I have no idea what happened and why he left, but that was a strange one because you turned down the Knicks to go back, and now you're just out of basketball.
Yeah.
Strange.
When they targeted Chris Finch, they talked to Mike Inori. They wanted to bring Pablo back here. Did that say anything to you about Towns? Maybe how they want to deploy him going forward? Any indictment on Tibbs? Like, did that say anything to you in regards to Karl Anthony Towns?
It's an interesting point. I didn't make that connection that strongly. I know Mike Inori is a guy who, I think Towns has a lot of respect for based on what I had heard. I'm sure Pablo, same thing, and Chris Finch. But yeah, it's interesting. How you use Cat and the minutes to me is going to be interesting because I think that there was somebody in those interviews, one of the candidates pointed out that you play these starters to a certain minute amount, whatever it was, 35, 37. The 5 minutes after that, their numbers. So
Wow.
it's going to be interesting to see, the minutes with Cat. Is he used differently? Is it the same? And I mean, look, he's an offensive weapon. He's a juggernaut. So if he's more comfortable in year two and more efficient in year two, that makes your offense that much better.
And I thought they were very fortunate to have one of the healthiest teams going into the playoffs. I mean, and Carl, thumb, this broken, that broken. I mean, it was surprising to see him make it through. I thought Jalen getting through the ankle injury at that time to be able to come into the playoffs and still play at a very high level. And even OG, when he hurt his foot against the Lakers, where it's like, man, he couldn't move. I thought they were fortunate to get those guys into April and into the playoffs relatively healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's partially luck, but it's also what you do every day with your training staff and your medical people. And obviously they had a great year last year. And so can you replicate that? Do you get as lucky? We'll see. But health, if they can stay healthy, and maybe playing the starters fewer minutes, maybe that leads to health. Maybe that helps you prevent maybe a sprint, turning your ankle late in the season. Who knows? It's a luck thing. It's not something you could really quantify, but certainly medical staff, training staff did a very good job last year.
The McCall extension, $150 million. To me, that seemed like a no-brainer deal. I didn't think they could afford to lose him. And it just seemed like, I know people didn't want them to buy into that sunken cost fallacy, but I just didn't see any way they make the investment that they did in him only to not re-sign him to, a deal, even though it wasn't as much savings as people had hoped.
Right. So, I think once you make that investment, the draft picks in bringing him here, you're going to extend him. I mean, to me, the only way he was not going to extend it is if Giannis decided to leave Milwaukee and then the Knicks say, hey, we have Bridges here. That was it. It was only going to be for like an elite player because, as you said, outside of that, why? What are you getting back in a trade? So, it made a lot of sense. I think that, look, things are settled, I guess, now in Milwaukee. But I'll say I feel for Bucks fans because that speculation is not going anywhere. And I think, continuing with the trade deadline and the offseason, whatever. Let's see how the season shakes out.
Yeah.
But I think Mikhail, the only play there was a player like Giannis, and that wasn't available, wasn't the case.
That one seems to be like a ticking time bomb. It's inevitable, in my opinion. The way that they stretch provision with Dame, they bring in Turner, but they still handcuff themselves from building in the future. They still have an average team. So I still think it's inevitable that he asks out probably after the season, after this upcoming season. So I do wonder in that regard, at that point, he'll have one more year left on his deal for 26, 27. Does that give him enough? If New York is in his sights, is that enough leverage to say New York or nowhere, do the Knicks bite? I'm ready to see them. I'm ready to go down the Canyon of Heroes with you first. But in the event that doesn't happen, I wonder if that's a possibility, man.
Yeah, I mean, all the teams that were keeping an eye on it in the offseason, which there were several teams, and their intel they felt was legitimate enough to, make moves with that in mind. I'm sure they're still keeping an eye on it because of everything you just stated. But look, you can't plan around that, right?
Yeah.
At this point, because the season's here. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Knicks against the Bucks, the Knicks against the Cavs, the Knicks against some of these teams, and even the younger teams coming up, the Magic. So there's going to be fun regular season matchups here, and the Knicks are going to be challenged.
Who do you think is a non-Cavs team to keep an eye out on in the East this year?
I want to say Orlando. I don't know. Unproven to a degree, but I want to say Orlando. Who do you like?
I think it's the Hawks.
Yeah.
I think it's the Hawks.
Yep.
After seeing how they matched up with the Knicks last year, I was at a couple of those games. I was at the MLK game. Knicks lost to them in the NBA Cup quarterfinals. I was trying to get to Vegas. I was sorry about that. But the wing depth that they have, Jalen Johnson, I'm becoming a big fan of his. Reese Shea, picking up Nickeil Alexander-Walker, KP. And Trey's got the killer instinct, man.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a scrappy team. They have Kennard coming off the bench. I think they're going to be a scrappy team against the Knicks.
I guess there's been so many off seasons where I felt that was the group that maybe I just ruled them out because of that, because of past experiences. But yeah, they had a great off season. If they're healthy, Dyson Daniels, that's a tough team.
Yeah. Orlando's going to be tough. I think, they have a high floor in terms of what you can expect, especially defensively. They match up with the Knicks very well. They're always tough against the Knicks. They provide that physicality that Jamal Mosley wants. I like how they plugged the hole at the guard spot and the shooting spot with Bane. I just wonder if that's enough. Was that the all-in move for them to make to really propel them to the top of the East? I think that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unfortunate in the injuries. I hate that part of it because you want to see everybody healthy. You want to see everybody competing whole. But nonetheless, with the injuries the way they are, the Halliburton, Tatum, there's a clear path for a team like the Knicks or a team coming up like the Hawks to really play deep into the spring. And yeah, we'll see how it shakes out.
Mikal got his bag. He got his deal. The Mitch deal is very interesting to me. That's one I'm going to be watching as well because, I'm a Mitch guy. Mm-hmm. I feel like they can't afford to lose him. I do wonder if Brown is going to start him. But from a deal standpoint, Mitch is kind of putting it out there, man. He's got a little chip on his shoulder. And he made some comments on the KFTV Instagram basically saying, like, hey, listen, when I came back, things started to stabilize. Like, if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have made it as far. And I agree with him.
Yeah.
What do you think they
certainly agree with him? I think they know how valuable he is when he's healthy. They know how important of a piece he is to what they want to do when he's healthy. And so, to me, if you find some middle ground where nobody's going to be thrilled, but everybody can kind of accept it, team friendly, add him for a few years, you do it. Yeah. Injury concerns are always going to be there. That's just a part of Mitchell Robinson's career, but you saw how important he is. And he's right. He was saying that on your Instagram page. I agree with him, and it's based on results. It's based on what you saw on the floor when he's healthy, when he's out there. Very important piece for the Knicks. If I'm them, I would extend him because why do you want him playing into a contract year? Why do you want that element hanging over him? But I don't write the checks. I don't have to deal with the second apron. So it'll be interesting. The dance there will be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. This week they hired Lane. Is it Lanes or Lang?
Lang.
Lang,
Mhm.
for the former St. Joe's coach to head up player development. They have a number of young players right now trying to get rotation minutes or be by the end of the bench. Who do you think has the most promise this year? Is potentially getting some rotation minutes?
I would say Huck Porty, and I say that positionally and because of potential for injury. But in terms of like upside, Dadier, if he can figure some things out, I mean, the frame is there. Um, he's fluid in his movements. If he can take a jump, I don't know if he'll get rotation minutes, but
Yeah,
that's certainly somebody who, bigger picture, you should keep an eye on. And I think that's the thinking with the player development. I know it's been important to uh, Jim Dolan, I think, on both sides, hockey, basketball, for a while. And there was people, I think there was some uh, uh, people who didn't think it was going in the right direction last year. So you bring in Billy Lang and to oversee the whole thing. And yes, you got to hit on the margins with some of these guys, right? So I think that's the thinking. Uh, player players on team friendly deals, get them, turn them into rotation pieces when some of these other guys start to age out or become too expensive.
yeah, I'm with you. I think Huck Porty should be right up there for minutes because for me, I wouldn't even play Mitch on back to backs at all. I want to
That's a
make
good call.
sure he's ready for. One of the things they benefited from was that he ramped up at the right time
Yeah.
and came into the playoffs fresh.
Yep.
Now he's got to go through a whole 82 and then remain fresh with playoffs. So I'm playing Huck Porty some of those minutes. No back to backs for Mitch, and then for Dadier, I'm with you. I like the ceiling for me out of the younger guys. He has the highest ceiling that they can tap into, and utilize his wing versatility. Because to me, if there's 5 or 6 minutes in there where he can knock down a couple corner threes, get some nice cuts going, hey, maybe 5 points here, 5 points there, some scrappy defense, I think that's a good start for him. And I like to see them, see him making an ascent as he gets older here with his team.
It's always fun to me year two because who's going to make a jump, who's maturing, the game slows down, your off court life slows down. Does that allow you to make an impact? Tyler Kolek, too, a very, very skilled player. So somebody's going to make the jump. Maybe multiple guys are going to make jump. But I love looking year one to year two to see how guys.
Yeah.
I think every Knick fan probably had Frank Ntilikina under the microscope year one to year two to year three,
Yeah.
waiting for that jump. So that's just fun to me as a outsider, as an observer.
Yeah. And if you look at some of the young guys who have come through this organization since you've been here, Frank, he got cut from the French team. He's not in the league right now. RJ went to Toronto, had a much better year last year. I think, I spoke to his father. He gives credit to their coach and Darko and kind of having that system to maximize RJ's talents. Quick's been kind of up and down. You had Obi make it to the finals,
Yes.
Game 7 of the
Yeah.
finals.
Had a great
Quentin
playoffs.
Grimes playing himself into, we'll see.
Should be a contract.
Should be a bag, but
Yeah,
maybe not, man.
yeah.
So it's interesting to see where the young guys have all gone, and it's Deuce is the last man standing right now, man.
Yeah, and Mitch is the longest tenured
Mitch
Knick,
is the longest
which is
tenured.
also crazy for me. Yeah, look, I think that where these guys have landed and what you've seen them do, nobody's fallen off the NBA map. I mean, Cam Reddish signing, I guess, a deal in Europe, so maybe you said
Yeah.
Cam Reddish. But by and large, a lot of these guys that came through their system, the younger guys, legit NBA players. And I think you can look at both sides of the coin. You could say, why didn't we keep him? He could be
Mhm.
helping us. He's young. Or you could say, we did a heck of a job drafting him. It shows us that we have a good eye for talent in late June.
Yeah, that is true indeed. Who was there? One guy, one young player who you feel like was maybe the biggest what if here with the Knicks?
It's easy to say now, and maybe he doesn't fit the category, but I just think Porzingis had a comfort level here, had a real love for this city, and he was young, and he was coming off a really tough injury.
Yeah,
But I wonder, like, if you kept him here and he still had that comfort level and he comes back physically 100%, how different are things? What does it look like? Because everybody knows he had some runs where he looked like a top NBA player.
Yeah.
And so that's the one. If I had to pick one, do you have one?
I gotta say RJ, man.
Yeah.
I'm still a big RJ fan. He was the highest pick they've had since what, Ewing? RJ was
Patrick,
third.
right? Yeah.
He was the highest pick they had. I thought he was gonna have a longevity here with this group, but once Julius started to make his ascent, I knew they couldn't coexist.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were gonna trade Julius before they did.
For RJ.
And I thought, RJ was gonna kind of take the reins. That one was surprising. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with RJ, man. But I'm happy to see him having that success with Toronto, man. He definitely deserves it.
Same. Great young guy. Carried himself like a pro.
And that's what I respected about him as well, especially in this city. So I was hoping that would have lasted a little bit longer. This past weekend, Carmelo makes it to the Hall of Fame. What was your favorite Melo story covering him in all those years here in New York?
Man, there's a lot. I'll just hit two. We're off the court. Right after Hurricane Sandy, once you were able to travel, get on the roads and stuff, he had, I think it was 2, maybe 3 huge trucks go down to, I think, Red Hook. I think we were in Red Hook. Ton of food for everybody. People were lined up getting boxes of food right after Sandy when everything was a mess. And it was just really, really told me about what Carmelo was about. And so he's been that way with the community for his whole career. Another off the court one. You remember Clay Anthony early?
Mm-hmm.
He got caught up in something at a strip club. I don't remember the details, but I think the Knicks were gonna maybe have to cut him. Carmelo said, "I'll pay your whole salary," like just as a teammate, as an NBA brother. And so that to me told me a lot about him too, in terms of where he puts his energy. And so I don't know. You can't you could talk about him as a basketball player, flaws, pros, cons, but just as a man and what he stands for, that will always stay with me.
Yeah, that's real. And one of the things, results be damned. I always appreciated how he held himself accountable after every game. And there were some tough nights, some tough losses. I never recalled him dodging the media, anything like that. He was always in front of the mic, win, lose, or draw, and talking about it.
Yeah, he was there. He was there. And to me, I guess what I would say is you wonder, you have some what ifs there. Like, what if he waited and then came in as a free agent? What if they were able to keep the point guard situation a little bit more steady? They amnestied Billups to bring Tyson in. That was a big move with a lot of ripple effects. So I think his New York reputation and the mark he left here is tarnished because of the players around him. And he's not perfect. He not a top level defender. There were times where he was not in great shape. Other times he was in great shape. But I think the way you judge him as a Knick, so impacted by the cast around him.
I agree. Totally agree. The Kawhi Leonard latest, any under the table dealing with Steve Ballmer. The initial report from Pablo Torre and Boston Sports Journal was that it's $48 million. And then, the Ballmer investment of 50. But just recently, it was discovered that there was about another $2 million, or there was a $2 million payment where they were short, and another Clippers owner came in to fund that. What do you make of this circus between Leonard, the Clippers, and the NBA now investigating?
I mean, look, the league talks about needing to see solid evidence and not circumstantial. This most recent one from Pablo, I mean, that is a smoking gun if I've ever seen one, because of what you said. Kawhi Leonard was among the people who this company owed money, and so he asked for the money, or whoever asked for the money on his behalf, and they came through with the money. So, to me, that is a smoking gun. And I hope the NBA, look, it's an interesting position for the league. Adam Silver, he works on behalf of the board of governors, the owners. But he said it. He also has a responsibility to protect the league's reputation. I think you have to come down hard here. You can't hide behind, well, we don't have the email that tells us exactly there's too much there
Yeah.
that points in that direction for you to sweep it under the rug. I would assume they want to get it done before the season starts, and obviously All-Star at the Clippers this year. So I would expect whatever the investigation uncovers, I think we'll have all of it before the season gets going.
Yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see, man. What's next for you? How are you ramping up? Are you going under training camp? Is there like a journalist training camp that you go under? Or how do you prepare for the season, man?
It's so funny, man. I always think about, I don't have an Instagram, but if I did, I would make a video like tweeting, like get my sweating with the headband on. Pick the phone up.
Typing training, right? Get out there faster than Shams, right?
Running to the locker room after the game. I'm excited, man. Got a chance to, as I said, spend time with the family. Having a rare chance to spend some time with my wife. Just the two of us. We're gonna go hang out for a few days.
Nice.
And that's rare when it's no kids. I love my kids. We love our kids, but having that time is gonna be nice.
Sure.
So yeah, next week doing that, and then let's go.
Immediate day preseason, and the marathon begins.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Ian Begley, always appreciate it, man.
Hey.
Year 9 for us, and it's always appreciated to have you on our side and be an ally with us, man. We appreciate you, man.
Always happy to be here. Love seeing your rise and love seeing your continued success, and here's to much more.
Appreciate you, man.